Deep within every human being lies a mysterious, silent, and invincible force, an invisible magnet that, without you even realizing it, attracts or repels every circumstance of your life. This magnet is not outside of you, but within your mind, your spirit, in the secret vibration of your thoughts. There is where prosperity or scarcity is born, harmony or conflict, fortune or adversity. This text, The Invisible Magnet of Prosperity, inspired by the timeless teachings of Emmet Fox, reveals how to awaken and master that power. Here you will learn how to attract the good, opportunities, abundance, peace, and fulfilling relationships, and how to repel the bad, fear, doubt, limitation, and everything that drains your energy. Prepare yourself for a transformative journey, where every word will act like a chisel shaping your consciousness, releasing your true potential. For prosperity is no accident. It is the result of understanding and applying the invisible laws that govern the universe. Listen carefully. Open your mind and heart and allow this ancient wisdom to ignite within you the spark that will turn your life into a powerful magnet for everything you have ever dreamed of. Every human search for prosperity almost always begins on the periphery, through action, effort, accumulation, and the anxiety of obtaining what seems to lie outside of oneself. This attitude, though natural to a mind trained in the belief of separation and struggle, has since time immemorial been the main cause of frustration, exhaustion, and disillusionment. We have been taught to look outward, to measure our worth by results, to think that wealth and goodness are distant prizes, granted only to a few privileged ones after arduous sacrifice or strokes of luck. Yet spiritual truth, the only one that liberates and transforms, is radically different, even opposite to this paradigm. Prosperity, in its essence, is not something you acquire or conquer. It is something you allow. It is not a distant goal, nor a treasure reserved for the strong or the cunning, but an inner reality, seeking to manifest here and now through anyone who understands and accepts their divine sonship. Goodness is not conquered by violence, nor attained by the sweat of the brow, but revealed and expressed wherever the mind and heart open to its influence. True attraction, the only kind that is stable, deep, and enduring, is not achieved through physical effort or external manipulation, but through the law of mental affinity. Like attracts like. Everything you sustain in consciousness will, by immutable law, manifest in the visible plane. Jesus expressed it with simplicity and depth, and I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. John 12:32. This phrase, far from referring only to a historical event, contains an exact mental law. When you lift your consciousness, when you transcend old patterns of fear, lack, criticism, or doubt, all good begins to be drawn to you, not by force, but by affinity. Inner elevation, not outer struggle, is the key. It is not about chasing blessings, but allowing them to flow toward you, because you have placed yourself at the level where their manifestation becomes inevitable. This book is not an invitation to beg for blessings, nor to manipulate outer conditions. Neither is it a collection of empty formulas to soothe the ego's anxiety. It is a call to awaken your divine right as a child of God, to recognize that by nature you are both a channel and a center of attraction for all that is good, beautiful, and true. Here you will learn to shift your focus from struggle to elevation, from worry to acceptance, from effort to alignment with principle. You will discover that prosperity in all its forms is the inevitable consequence of an elevated consciousness, not the reward of an unequal fight. The truth you will find in these pages does not seek to seduce with easy promises or illusory shortcuts, but to show you the secure and serene path of inner transformation, the only path capable of producing lasting results. If you choose to walk it, you will see how the silent power of attraction awakens within you, and how the universe begins to respond with generosity, order, and fullness. For ultimately, prosperity is not sought, it is allowed. It is not begged for, it manifests from within, and this is your right, your inheritance, and your destiny. The Invisible Magnet of Prosperity. Inspired by the teachings of Emmet Fox, we have noticed that more than 80% of those who visit our channel are not subscribed. You can support this project by pressing the subscribe button and giving a like to the video. Thank you for inspiring us to continue creating better and more meaningful content. Are you ready to change your life? Chapter 1. The Principle of the Inner Magnet. Every person, without exception, lives surrounded by an invisible atmosphere, a mental field that they project without even knowing it. This is not a mysterious force coming from the stars, nor a hidden spell, but a precise law, as exact and certain as the law of gravity, operating ceaselessly in the life of every human being. Christian metaphysics has called this reality the law of mentalism, and it is the cornerstone upon which every manifestation in the world of experience rests. Most people, distracted by the multitude of external stimuli and the demands of daily life, do not realize that the true center of their existence is not found in what happens to them, nor in what they possess, nor in what they receive from the outside world, but in the invisible core of their own mind, where their beliefs are shaped, their deepest feelings are formed, and their most persistent mental images are held. It is not enough to accept superficially that thought influences life. One must understand, with absolute clarity and radical honesty, that every circumstance, relationship, difficulty, or success in your existence is nothing more than the result, the echo, the materialized consequence of what you have sustained mentally, whether consciously or unconsciously. If we were granted the ability to see with spiritual eyes the true state of our inner world, we would discover that we are living magnets, attracting with unfailing precision not what we say we desire, but what we genuinely believe, feel, and expect in the depths of our being. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. This is not merely poetic inspiration, but an exact description of the creative principle governing human life. The law cannot be deceived. You may feign optimism. You may recite affirmations of prosperity, learned by heart. You may repeat formulas and decrees with fervor. But as long as you secretly harbor images of lack, fear, resentment, or unworthiness within, that, and nothing else, will be what you inevitably attract into your experience. Just as a magnet cannot attract copper or lead, but only that which corresponds to its very nature, so too your mind irresistibly attracts only what is in affinity with its predominant vibration. This is the underlying reason why so many people, despite their efforts, fail to change the conditions of their lives. They struggle to alter the outer world, but leave unchanged the inner field, the mental mold that determines every result. The law of mentalism teaches in clear and direct words that we live in a mental world. It is not the outer world that molds our mind. It is our mind that shapes the outer world. Each person lives in a universe created by their own convictions, their own feelings, and their own degree of acceptance of the good. Everything that enters your life is but the material expression of some belief within your own mind. Your body, the relationships you have, the financial situation you experience, your health, opportunities, or apparent obstacles, all of it, absolutely everything, finds its root in some mental form, in a belief, in a persistent image held active in your consciousness. This leads to the first great inductive question that cannot be avoided. What are you attracting at this very moment in your life? If you are honest with yourself, you will realize that it is not what you consciously wish for, but what, deep down, you feel to be real, possible, or inevitable. You may long for prosperity and yet attract financial hardship, if beneath your longing you hold the hidden belief that money is hard to obtain, or that success is reserved for a select few, or that you are undeserving. You may pray for health and yet attract recurring ailments, if inwardly you feel vulnerable, fearful, or convinced of the inevitability of sickness. This is why it is essential to examine, without excuses or euphemisms, the real nature of your secret thoughts. The mental universe does not respond to what you say. It responds to what you are in the silence of your consciousness. To illustrate this principle, Jesus used the parable of the sower, so simple and yet so profound in its message. The sower goes out to sow the seed, and the seed falls upon different kinds of ground. Only in fertile, clean soil does the seed sprout and bear abundant fruit. So it is with your thoughts. They are seeds. The soil is your subconscious mind. If the soil is filled with stones of fear, thorns of resentment, or weeds of discouragement, the seed of good cannot take root. It is necessary to prepare the soil, to cleanse the mind of all that is contrary to the good, and to deliberately plant the ideas you wish to see manifested. This work, far from being mystical or esoteric, is deeply practical and rational. There are no shortcuts, no substitutes. The outer result will always be the faithful reproduction of the inner mental mold. Can you change the magnetism of your life? Yes, you can. And this is the secret that has transformed the destiny of countless people throughout history. The first step is to recognize that you are not a victim of chance, nor of fate, nor of outside circumstances. You are the magnet. You are the creative center of your experiences. This is not an exclusive power granted to a few enlightened beings, nor a blessing reserved for exceptional souls, but a universal law operating in every human being without distinction. This understanding requires responsibility, but it also confers power. For the same principle that allowed the manifestation of difficulties can, with equal ease, be used to attract every good. You do not need to change the world, nor beg favors from others, nor seek special external conditions. It is enough to transform the contents of your mind. Here is a fundamental exercise I recommend to every reader who wishes to test this principle for themselves. For at least 7 days, observe with absolute honesty the content of your predominant thoughts. Do not try to correct them or judge them. Simply observe. At the end of each day, write in a notebook what you have thought, felt, and imagined concerning prosperity, health, relationships, work, and life in general. Be specific. Have you thought more about what you desire or about what you fear? Have you felt gratitude or dissatisfaction? Have you imagined success or failure? This exercise in self-observation is the first step to discovering the true magnetic field you have been projecting, perhaps unconsciously, but no less real for that. Remember, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want." Psalm 23:1. Meditate on this affirmation not as a future promise, but as a description of your present reality here and now. If you embrace it with faith, you will see your field of attraction begin to transform. It is vital to understand that the mind is not only surface thought, but a complex network of conscious and subconscious ideas. The subconscious is the silent worker of good or evil, according to the nourishment it receives from the conscious mind. If you allow thoughts of fear, lack, hatred, or criticism to settle in the subconscious, they will inevitably germinate sooner or later in your experience. On the contrary, if you deliberately cultivate ideas of faith, abundance, love, and acceptance of the good, these will attract by affinity everything that corresponds to them. No external power can contradict this law, for it operates according to the very principle of the universe. Many ask, how can I change deep thoughts, those that seem beyond my conscious control? The answer is not magical, but it is simple and direct, through persistent repetition, constant affirmation, vigilance, and self-observation. Mental habits, like physical ones, are formed through the continued repetition of the same type of thought. If you repeat a spiritual truth daily, if you sincerely affirm your right to prosperity and good, if you watch over your words and reactions, little by little the subconscious begins to accept this new image, and the magnetic field of your life is silently reconfigured. The change may be gradual or sudden, but in any case, it will be inevitable. Let me share a secret revealed by the observation of thousands of cases. The law responds not to force, but to consistency. It does not require titanic effort, nor periods of strain and anxiety. True magnetism is produced by the steady elevation of thought, by the daily cleansing of the heart, by the constant practice of truth, not by sporadic bursts of enthusiasm. Just as the farmer does not pull up the seed to see if it is growing, but waters it daily and trusts the process, so must you cultivate your mind day after day with faith, patience, and perseverance. The law of mentalism does not reward impatience but fidelity to principle. A common mistake is to suppose that it is enough to think positively for a few minutes a day in order to reverse years of negative thinking. It is not so. The mental field must be transformed integrally, not only on the surface but in depth. This often means confronting old beliefs, past wounds, unresolved resentments, and entrenched habits of self-limitation. Do not fear discovering them. On the contrary, welcome them as opportunities for inner cleansing. Everything revealed can be healed. Everything brought to the light of truth loses its power over you. Psalm 23 contains a profound key for inner work. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Psalm 23:4. This inner assurance is the foundation of true spiritual magnetism. It is not about denying difficulties, nor pretending that everything is well when it is not, but about affirming with conviction that good is the ultimate reality, and that nothing and no one can separate you from your divine inheritance. Sustained faith, even in the midst of adversity, produces a transformation in the field of your life, gradual but certain. You do not attract prosperity by desiring it anxiously, but by mentally identifying with it. Another essential aspect is to understand that the law of mentalism does not operate in a vacuum. It is rooted in the very nature of God, who is intelligence, love, and absolute good. You are not an isolated magnet in a hostile universe, but a channel through which the infinite goodness of God seeks to express and multiply itself. This realization frees you from fear, from competition, from the sense of lack. I shall not want. Repeat this, not as a mere formula, but as a conviction born of understanding the principle. When you accept that God is your source and your sustenance, you stop begging from people, you stop struggling for resources, and you begin to attract by affinity everything necessary for your well-being and fullness. The exercise of daily mental self-observation must become a permanent habit. Practicing it for a week is not enough. Each morning when you awaken, ask yourself, what am I willing to attract today? And each night before sleeping, review the content of your mind. Do not fear discovering discordant thoughts or contradictory feelings. The cleansing of the mental field is a continuous work, and each day offers new opportunities to sow higher ideas. Remember, you cannot harvest wheat if you have sown thorns. You cannot attract prosperity if you cultivate the idea of lack. You cannot experience love if you hold on to resentment. The law makes no exceptions. To conclude this chapter, let me reaffirm, you are the invisible magnet that, by divine law, attracts into your experience whatever you sustain in your inner world. The past does not matter, nor your current conditions, nor the opinions of others. The only thing that matters is what you are willing to accept, to imagine, to affirm, and to feel as true. The field of your life is in your hands, and the seed you sow today will be the harvest of tomorrow. Accept the truth, practice self-observation, sow higher ideas, and the law will do the rest. The Lord is your shepherd, you shall not want. Do not forget it. Prosperity in its essence is not something to be acquired or conquered. It is something to be allowed. It is not a distant goal nor a treasure reserved for the strong or the cunning, but an inner reality seeking to manifest here and now through anyone who understands and accepts their divine sonship. Goodness is not conquered by violence nor achieved by the sweat of the brow, but revealed and expressed wherever the mind and the heart open to its influence. True attraction, the only kind that is stable, profound, and enduring, is not achieved by physical effort or outward manipulation, but by the law of mental affinity. Like attracts like, and whatever you sustain in your consciousness will, by immutable law, manifest in the visible plane. Jesus expressed it with simplicity and depth. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. John 12:32. This phrase, far from referring only to a historical event, encloses an exact mental law. When you elevate your consciousness, when you transcend old patterns of fear, lack, criticism, or doubt, all good begins to be drawn to you, not by force, but by affinity. Inner elevation, not outer struggle, is the key. It is not about chasing blessings, but about allowing them to flow to you, because you have placed yourself at the level where their manifestation is inevitable. This book is not an invitation to beg for blessings, nor to manipulate external conditions. Neither is it a collection of empty formulas to calm the anxiety of the ego. It is a call to awaken your divine right as a child of God, to recognize that by nature you are both a channel and a center of attraction for all that is good, beautiful, and true. Here you will learn to shift your focus, from struggle to elevation, from worry to acceptance, from effort to alignment with principle. You will discover that prosperity in all its forms is the inevitable consequence of an elevated consciousness, not the goal of an unequal fight. The truth you will find in these pages does not seek to seduce you with easy promises or illusory shortcuts, but to show you the safe and serene way of inner transformation, the only path capable of producing lasting results. If you choose to walk it, you will see the silent power of attraction awaken within you, and the universe begin to respond with generosity, order, and fullness. For ultimately, prosperity is not sought. It is allowed. It is not begged for. It manifests from within. And this is your right, your inheritance, and your destiny. Chapter 2. When I am lifted up at the inner height. The universe, in its deepest essence, always responds to the vibration of consciousness. No external power, no apparent circumstance, no blind chance can alter the unchanging course of the mental law, which establishes an unbreakable correspondence between the inner state and the outer manifestation. Jesus, master of spiritual law, did not conceal this principle. His words recorded in the Gospel of John are the clearest declaration ever spoken about the power of elevated consciousness to attract every form of good. And I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. John 12:32. This statement, far from being a mere reference to a historical event, contains the metaphysical key to transform human experience and to understand the true magnetism of prosperity. The literal interpretation of the phrase, "if I be lifted up," has for centuries limited its meaning, reducing it to an isolated episode of personal sacrifice or to the figure of the crucified and glorified Christ. Yet the deeper meaning is much broader and universal. The height to which Jesus refers is not geographic or physical. It is a higher state of consciousness, an elevated mental vibration, a point of affinity with the divine principle that attracts, transmutes, and multiplies all things. To be lifted up is a call to inner ascension, to rise above material thoughts, earthly worries, and ancestral fears, and to place oneself mentally in the sphere where only good is real and possible. The first step toward this elevation is to recognize that every difficulty, every limitation, every lack is nothing but the reflection of a mental descent, an alignment with beliefs of separation, scarcity, and impossibility. When consciousness clings to the low, complaints, criticism, memories of failure, identification with the body or circumstances, vital energy stagnates, and the magnetic field loses its capacity to attract the good. On the other hand, when the mind is deliberately lifted upward, when it fixes its attention on principle, when it contemplates truth, love, intelligence, and fullness as present realities, affinity with the source is immediately restored, and all that is needed begins to arrive as if drawn by an irresistible law. This spiritual law of attraction is not a mystery, nor a privilege of the few, nor an accidental miracle. It is the predictable result of the conscious elevation of thought. Whatever you give your attention, your feeling and your recognition becomes the center of gravity of your experience. If you rise mentally, you attract the higher. If you remain below, you attract the lower. There is no exception. That is why Jesus did not say, "Sometimes I will draw," but "I will draw all to myself." The universality of this law is absolute. Here a fundamental question arises. How is this elevation of consciousness practiced? The attentive reader will notice that it is not enough to merely wish to rise. Concrete methods must be applied to raise the vibratory level of the mind. The first tool is the visualization of the inner Christ. This does not mean imagining an external or distant figure, but recognizing, in the innermost center of one's being, the presence of divinity, the eternal spark that is the image and likeness of God. When a person in serene meditation contemplates the inner light, the infinite intelligence, the peace and love that beat within their own heart, something begins to rise silently, and the vibratory field shifts even though the outer world may remain the same for a time. To practice this visualization, sit in silence, relax the body, quiet external noises, and direct your attention to the center of your chest, where tradition has placed the seat of the inner Christ. Imagine a gentle growing light, not of this world but of the inner realm. Allow this light to expand, illuminating every corner of your consciousness, dissolving shadows, doubts, and fears. Ask for nothing. Simply recognize that the presence is there, and that in that presence already exist all abundance, all wisdom, all power. This simple act of recognition is itself an elevation, connecting you with the higher magnetism of good. The second tool is the prayer of elevation. This is not about begging or pleading from a place of need, but about affirming with spiritual authority the reality of your divine sonship and your inalienable right to good. An effective prayer might be, "Father, I recognize your presence within me. I rise mentally above all appearance and align myself with your infinite abundance. I allow your good to flow to me, and by affinity, I attract all that is necessary for the perfect expression of your will in my life." Speak these words with full awareness of their truth, not as a magical formula, but as a declaration of eternal facts. This process should not be confused with an emotional outburst or a sentimental reaction. The elevation of consciousness is not the result of excitement, nor of a momentary effort, nor of a reaction to difficulty. It is the fruit of a deep and sustained decision to live from the higher, to think, feel, and act at all times as a child of God, not as a spiritual beggar. It requires vigilance, discipline, and constant watchfulness over one's thoughts. For the mind, if not deliberately directed, tends to descend into the habits of the familiar, the safe, and the small. In daily life, this principle can be observed in countless situations. Notice, for example, how you react to financial difficulty. Do you sink into fear, complaint, comparison with others, despair? If so, your vibratory field tunes itself to lack and you attract more of the same. But if, in the midst of difficulty, you rise mentally, declare your trust in the source, maintain inner peace, and continue acting with faith, you begin to attract unexpected solutions, unforeseen help, new ideas. The difference is not outside, but in the inner height from which you live the process. Specific affirmations are another fundamental resource to raise the vibratory level. Each day, dedicate a few minutes to repeating softly or mentally phrases that establish in your mind the consciousness of the higher. For example, my thought is lifted up, my life is lifted with it. I attract only good into my experience, for I live from principle. I align with the inner Christ and allow prosperity to flow unhindered, no matter how adverse circumstances may seem. Constancy in these affirmations gradually transforms the mental soil, and by the law of attraction, all that corresponds to the higher begins to draw near to your experience. The role of expectation should not be overlooked. The elevated mind always expects good. It is never surprised by abundance, nor distressed by apparent delay, for it knows that the law cannot fail. Just as a seed once planted in good soil inevitably germinates, so the elevated consciousness attracts, with mathematical certainty, all that belongs to it. If you doubt, fear, or waver, you interrupt the flow. If you maintain the inner height, even when everything around seems contradictory, you prepare the ground for the manifestation of good in ever more abundant forms. The metaphor of the eagle clarifies this. When the eagle faces a storm, it does not hide in valleys or seek refuge below. It spreads its wings and rises above the clouds where the sun still shines. In the same way, the student of truth, when facing life's storms, does not descend into complaint or confusion with appearances, but rises mentally, holds to faith, and waits with certainty until the storm passes, and he remains in the heights. Elevation is not an exceptional state reserved for times of crisis. It is a way of life, a daily decision to align with truth. Every elevated thought, every act of faith, every word of gratitude, every visualization of the inner Christ contributes to strengthening the higher magnetic field and makes the attraction of good increasingly powerful and natural. There are no limits to the good you can attract when your consciousness remains in the heights. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Matthew 6:33. The addition is the inevitable consequence of elevation. You do not have to chase it nor struggle to obtain it. You only have to allow it from the higher level. Let me close this chapter with a practice of elevation you can incorporate into your life. Whenever you feel your mind descending into smallness, into doubt, fear, or criticism, pause for a moment. Close your eyes and repeat within. Now I rise, I am the inner Christ. I attract all good into my life because I remain in the heights. Visualize for a few seconds an ascending current of light, lifting you above every limitation, instantly connecting you to the level where all things are possible. Make this practice a habit, and you will see that as you rise, the universe responds with mathematical precision. and prosperity begins to manifest in forms that once seemed unreachable. The law is this: when you are lifted up in consciousness, you will draw all and all good to yourself. May this truth accompany you each day and inspire you to live always from the heights. Chapter 3. Good is not pursued, it is allowed. Most human beings live under the tacit assumption that good must be conquered, pursued, almost snatched by force from an indifferent or hostile universe. This deep and universal belief has shaped entire cultures and fueled a spirit of competition, struggle, and anxiety that, far from bringing us closer to good, keeps it always out of reach. From childhood, we are taught that prosperity, success, health, and happiness are prizes reserved only for the fittest, for those who strive more, sacrifice more, or outpace others. Yet the spiritual principle in its purity is radically opposed to this paradigm. Good in its true nature is not conquered, it is allowed. It is not pursued, it is accepted. It is not obtained by tension, effort, or anguish, but by the inner harmony that restores the natural flow of divine life through the human being. This truth can be unsettling to a mind conditioned by centuries of struggle. It is not, however, an invitation to passivity, nor an excuse for laziness, but a call to understand the hidden order that governs manifestation. Wherever there is tension, anxiety, fear, or competition, the flow of good is interrupted, and the more one tries to force the attainment of desires, the further away those desires seem to move. This is an immutable law. Anxiety repels what the soul seeks, harmony attracts it. The spiritual universe does not respond to the desperate cry of the beggar, but to the silent recognition of the son who knows who he is and what belongs to him by divine right. The parable of the prodigal son, found in the Gospel of Luke, illustrates this principle with extraordinary clarity. The younger son, impatient, demands his share of the inheritance and sets out in search of fortune. Convinced that good lies far away in foreign experiences, in the frantic pursuit of pleasure, success, and external recognition. Yet, away from home, he suffers deprivation, not by fate, but by his own decision to separate from the center. How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I perish here with hunger? Luke 15:17. The return home is not merely a physical journey, but the recovery of sonship, the inner state in which good has always been available. The Father, symbol of principle, does not reproach him, nor demand sacrifice or penance, but receives him with celebration, abundance, and unconditional love, as though he had never departed. This story is more than a moral tale. It is a living diagram of the mental law that governs human experience. We are all the prodigal son whenever we chase good outside ourselves, when we seek prosperity through effort without faith, when we believe life is scarce, when we imagine God as a distant judge, when we think love or the favor of the universe must be earned. The return to the center means releasing tension, ceasing to struggle, abandoning the belief in separation, and recognizing once and for all that good is inherent to our condition as children, not a reward for competition. Good is the natural state, the indestructible inheritance that can only be accepted, never conquered. In daily practice, this principle requires constant vigilance over the nature of your desires and motivations. Ask yourself honestly, from where am I seeking good? From fear of lack, from anxiety about losing, from comparison with others, from a desperate attempt to control the uncontrollable? If the answer is yes, stop. Recognize that such an attitude only drives away what you seek, for it mentally affirms that you do not have it, that you lack it, that it is difficult to reach. The first spiritual treatment for releasing tension is the conscious acceptance that good is already present, that nothing needs to be forced, that your only task is to remove the mental obstacles that prevent its manifestation. An effective method to restore flow is the practice of relaxation and surrender. Spend a few minutes each day sitting in silence, closing your eyes, and breathing deeply. As you exhale, imagine releasing all anxiety, worry, and forced expectation. As you inhale, affirm mentally, I allow good to flow through me. I release all struggle, all tension, all need to control. I align with principle and allow my inheritance to manifest. Do not expect instant results nor judge yourself for lingering restlessness. The mind, long accustomed to struggle, needs time to learn the art of allowing. Another powerful key is anticipatory gratitude. Do not give thanks only for what you receive, but also for what you know already belongs to you, even if it has not yet appeared. Gratitude is the silent recognition of the sun, the faith in invisible abundance that precedes visible manifestation. Affirm, "Thank you, Father, that all good belongs to me. Thank you that I do not need to pursue it. I need only to accept it." This attitude of certainty and serenity magnetizes the mental field and removes the invisible resistances that block the flow of prosperity. Worry, on the other hand, is the most common form of self-sabotage. Every time you worry, you affirm again and again the reality of lack, difficulty, and danger. Worry is a negative prayer, a constant declaration that things will go wrong, that good is elusive, that the universe conspires against you. If you understand this, you will see that worry is not only useless but directly harmful. Replace every thought of worry with an affirmation of trust. All is in divine order. Good comes to me easily and effortlessly. I release and I allow. This is not, I insist, about denying action. Inspired action, diligence, and persistence are natural expressions of a mind aligned with principle. The crucial difference lies in the inner state from which you act. Action from anxiety breeds more anxiety. Action from trust produces harmonious results. If you are unsure of the difference, observe your sensations. If you feel pressure, haste, fear, or doubt, you are pursuing. If you feel peace, joy, gratitude, and certainty, you are allowing. The art of allowing also requires learning how to receive. Many people unknowingly block prosperity through an inability to accept life's gifts. They fear owing favors, they distrust unexpected blessings, they feel undeserving, or reject opportunities out of modesty or suspicion. This is the symptom of a beggar's consciousness, not a son's. Repeat daily, "I'm willing to receive all the good that life has for me. I open, I allow, I accept, I give thanks." Every time you receive something, no matter how small, recognize it as a sign that the flow is open and strengthen your willingness to allow more. Harmony with God, the foundation of all spiritual magnetism, is not achieved through desperate pleas or heroic acts, but through the inner stillness that recognizes His presence within. Silent prayer, contemplation of principle, and the habit of returning to the center as often as necessary are practices that restore alignment and return consciousness to the state in which good manifests spontaneously. When the prodigal son returns, he discovers that nothing was ever lacking. Everything was there, waiting for his acceptance. To integrate this chapter into your life, establish the habit of observing yourself whenever you feel the urge to pursue good. Pause and ask, what am I affirming with my attitude? Am I struggling or allowing? If you discover struggle, stop, breathe, release, affirm your right, and reframe the situation from the certainty that good is your natural inheritance. Remember, true power lies in the act of allowing, and no external force can deny good to one who recognizes himself as a child and effortlessly aligns with the flow of divine life. There is no shortcut, no substitute for this inner work. Good is not pursued, it is allowed. It is the law. And this law is verified in the experience of those who, ceasing to beg, return to the center, recognize the abundance of the Father's house, and open themselves to receive all that principle has prepared for their fulfillment. May this be your path, and may the habit of allowing become the open door to a prosperity that already belongs to you. Chapter 4. How does the law of mental equivalent work? All of life is upheld and revealed by a universal and unfailing principle. Everything that appears in the visible realm, every condition, object, circumstance, relationship, or state, is the projection of an image or mold already existing in the invisible realm of the mind. No situation comes into existence by accident, chance, or mere external will. Nothing can manifest outwardly that has not first been conceived, nurtured, and accepted as possible in the mental plane. This is the law of mental equivalent. It is the master key that connects thought with experience, desire with form, faith with fulfillment. Everything you seek to manifest, prosperity, health, harmony, love, success, requires first of all the deliberate creation of its mental equivalent. The most common and costly mistake is to attempt to change the outer world by physical means, emotional pressure, or manipulation. forgetting that the true cause of everything that enters life resides in the mind. A person may seek money while inwardly sustaining an image of lack and limitation. They may long for a harmonious relationship while cultivating resentment or distrust. They may pray for health while secretly clinging to fear of disease. Every attempt to modify effects without addressing mental causes is doomed to failure, or at best to temporary results. The spiritual universe is precise. It does not respond to isolated efforts or petitions made without conviction, but to the living presence of an inner mold that corresponds exactly and mathematically to the expected result. The fundamental question for anyone seeking to understand this law is, what mental image do I hold of myself, of life, and of my possibilities? For where the mind sustains a mold of poverty, limitation, or lack, poverty, limitation, and lack will inevitably manifest, regardless of external efforts. Conversely, where the mind holds a clear mold of abundance, success, harmony, and trust in good, those same realities will sooner or later manifest in the visible world. The law cannot be deceived or altered by force. It is the faithful reflection of the mental image sustained with faith. Constructing a mental equivalent. How is a clear and powerful mental equivalent built? The process begins with recognizing that the mind is by nature both creative and receptive. Every thought sustained with sufficient clarity and feeling leaves an imprint on the subconscious, and the subconscious, like fertile soil, organizes and coordinates circumstances, people, and opportunities that correspond exactly to the mental seed planted. Prosperity, for example, requires above all an inner mold of prosperity, that is, a mental image so vivid, so real, so full of faith that the subconscious accepts it without resistance. The first exercise is to define with absolute clarity what you desire to experience. It is not enough to wish vaguely for more money, better health, or greater happiness. You must give precise form to the mental image. Ask yourself, what does prosperity look like in my life? What would I feel if it were already here? What habits, sensations, and thoughts would accompany that reality? Take the time to write a detailed description of the state you wish to manifest, leaving no room for ambiguity or doubt. Do not limit yourself by what you believe is possible based on the past, but by what you recognize as possible for principle. Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours. Mark 11:24. Visualization and prayer. The next step is regular, disciplined visualization of the mental image. Each day, spend a few minutes closing your eyes, quieting the mind and contemplating inwardly the finished picture of your desire fulfilled. This is not a tense or forced effort, but a serene and grateful contemplation. Feel that it is already yours, that you possess it, enjoy it, and that it is natural and simple for you. Do not imagine obstacles or conditions. Enter the sensation of certainty. If doubts, fears, or resistances arise during visualization, do not struggle against them. Simply return again and again to the desired mold until it becomes more real and more familiar than any worry. Here, the power of scientific prayer is revealed as an indispensable tool. Scientific prayer is not begging, bargaining, or desperately trying to persuade a distant God. It is affirmation and recognition of good as a present reality, here and now. Scientific prayer may declare with conviction, I recognize that God is my only source. Prosperity flows to me in perfect abundance. I am open, receptive, and grateful for the good manifesting in my life. My mental equivalent is one of unlimited prosperity, and all that I need comes to me by divine law. Repeated inwardly in silence, accompanied by visualization, this prayer strengthens the mold and fixes it in the subconscious. Silence as the creative matrix. Inner silence is the creative matrix where mental equivalents consolidate. The modern world, saturated with noise, distraction, and overstimulation, makes it difficult to cultivate the silence needed for new mental forms to germinate. Thus, it is essential to reserve moments each day to enter stillness, to turn off the external senses and immerse yourself in inner presence. In that space of calm, thoughts arrange themselves, images become clearer, and the mind becomes receptive to inspiration and certainty that the desire is already accomplished in the invisible realm. Patience and purity of the mold. A frequent trap is impatience or the demand for immediate results. The law is exact, but it operates in its own rhythm according to each person's faith, perseverance, and receptivity. Just as one does not force a seed to bear fruit before its time, manifestation cannot be rushed without disrupting the process. If the mind grows impatient, doubts, or clings to the result, it weakens the inner mold and contaminates it with contradictory images. The task of the student of truth is to sustain the mental equivalent serenely and faithfully without obsession about the how or the when. The principle knows. The mental mold attracts. Manifestation arrives in perfect timing. Also remember, the mental equivalent can be contaminated by inherited beliefs, past experiences, other people's opinions, or unrecognized fears. Therefore, building the mental equivalent is also an act of cleansing. Remove every image of impossibility, lack, unworthiness, or resignation. Replace them one by one with images of fullness, possibility, worthiness, and gratitude. Every time you detect a discordant thought, do not condemn it. Simply substitute it with the new mold and repeat the process as many times as necessary. As the potter shapes clay with patience, so you shape your consciousness until the mental form is clear, sharp, and sustained. Vibration and manifestation. The mental equivalent is, ultimately, a vibration. The universe does not respond to empty words, but to the frequency of feeling. This is why prosperity must be felt as present before it manifests in the material realm. If your mind doubts, if your heart hesitates, if your attitude is one of waiting and lack, that is what will be reflected in results. If instead your sensations are of fullness, of joyful anticipation, of genuine gratitude, the mold is complete, and the law cannot fail. As a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Proverbs 23:7. The simplest and most powerful proof of the law of mental equivalent is to observe your own environment, your life itself, as a perfect mirror of your inner state. There is no injustice, no chance, no error in the mental universe. If you desire a different result, begin by creating, sustaining, and nurturing the corresponding mental equivalent. Do not ask how it will come about. Do not seek human explanations or logical solutions. Let principle act, and your task will be to remain faithful to the mold, in thought, in word, and in action. Daily practice. Make this law your ally. Each morning upon waking, dedicate a few minutes to strengthening the mental equivalent of what you desire. Visualize it, feel it, affirm it. Each night before sleep, review your day and correct any discordant image. Keep your inner field aligned with good, and prosperity will inevitably flow to you, not by chance, but by the exact operation of law. Nothing can manifest in your life that does not first exist as a mental image. Prosperity is, before all else, an inner mold. Build it with patience, feed it with faith, protect it with silence, and you will see the outer world respond with mathematical precision. This is the law, it does not fail. Chapter 5. The Subconscious, Silent Worker of Good. The human mind is composed of various levels, the deepest and most decisive being the one most people ignore, the subconscious. It is within this vast territory, invisible to superficial observation, that everything is sown and harvested which will sooner or later appear in the world of experience. The subconscious does not argue, reason, or select. It faithfully obeys the impressions it receives, whether true or false, constructive or destructive. In the strictest sense, it is the silent worker of good or evil, according to what is entrusted and repeated to it. The recognition of this principle marks the beginning of true mastery over life. For wherever the power of the subconscious is acknowledged, there begins the art of deliberate sowing and conscious harvest. The operation of the subconscious may be compared, quite justly, to the parable of the sower. The sower went out to sow his seed. Some fell by the wayside, some on stony ground, some among thorns, and some on good soil. Only the seed that found fertile ground, free from obstacles, germinated and bore abundant fruit. So it is with the ideas we deposit in the subconscious. Those sown with faith, repetition, and feeling, far from the barren soil of doubt, criticism, or fear, germinate with mathematical certainty. The others, though they may seem promising at first, are choked and never come to fruition. The conscious mind is the sower, the subconscious the soil, and the seed is the thought repeated and felt with sufficient intensity. The fundamental question every serious student must ask is, what seeds have I sown, consciously or unconsciously, in my subconscious? For out of that hidden storehouse spring not only successes and blessings, but also limitations, failures, and recurring painful experiences. There is no such thing as chance, bad luck, or fatality. There is only a law of correspondence bringing to the surface everything that has been impressed through thought, emotion, and habit into the deeper layers of the mind. It is not enough to desire surface-level change. The contents of the subconscious must be transformed if the harvest is to be different. How ideas take root. How is an idea planted in the subconscious? The essential method is repetition. By repeatedly thinking, affirming, visualizing, or feeling an idea, the conscious mind eventually transfers it to the subconscious, where it becomes habit, tendency, and cause of manifestation. The subconscious does not care whether the idea is positive or negative. It simply obeys. Thus, a person may consciously desire prosperity yet continue to reap scarcity for years, because deep within their mind lie seeds of fear, unworthiness, resentment, or belief in limitation. This is not punishment nor a trap, but simply law operating with precision. The first exercise for transforming the subconscious is to deliberately choose a powerful affirmation and repeat it silently many times a day until it begins to echo within. A fundamental affirmation is, I am the perfect channel of divine abundance. This is not the recitation of empty words, but the steady sowing of the idea that good is not external, distant, or a product of chance, but flows through you, by your divine right, by your connection to principle. The more you repeat this idea, especially in moments of relaxation, upon waking and before sleeping, the deeper the message penetrates, the more fertile the soil becomes, and the more certain the growth of the new seed. Silent repetition has the power to uproot old beliefs and replace them with new convictions. Cultivating the inner field. It is essential to understand that the subconscious is like soil that, if not cultivated deliberately, fills itself with wild weeds, hereditary ideas, social fears, and borrowed opinions. Thus, vigilance must be constant. Observe your automatic reactions, your spontaneous impulses, your responses to difficulties. There you will discover what has been sown for years, often without your awareness. Do not fight against the old seeds. Simply sow new ones with perseverance until the new harvest displaces the old. The work with the subconscious requires patience and discipline. It is not enough to repeat an affirmation once or twice, nor to expect immediate results. The deep mind responds to consistency, regularity, and the feeling accompanying the affirmation. Sow the chosen idea each morning and night. Support it with simple visualizations in which you see yourself acting, feeling, and enjoying the desired reality. Do not worry about visible results in the early days. Trust the silent process. Just as the seed takes time to germinate, so too the new mental programming requires time to bear fruit. Scientific prayer. Here, scientific prayer plays a vital role. To pray is not to beg, plead, or attempt to convince a reluctant God, but to recognize, deep within your being, that the channel is already open, that abundance is the fundamental truth, and that nothing can prevent its manifestation. To pray scientifically is to affirm the invisible reality with such conviction that the subconscious accepts it as fact, and by law produces it in the visible realm. You may accompany your prayer with conscious breathing, letting each exhalation release the old mold, and each inhalation welcome the new idea. As in the parable, not every seed germinates at the same speed. Some ideas require time to dislodge old patterns, while others sprout quickly. Do not be discouraged if at first nothing seems to change. Work in the subconscious is cumulative, and when the moment arrives, the entire field is renewed, and life begins to reflect with astonishing precision the new planting. Protecting the harvest. Remain watchful over your daily words and thoughts, for each one strengthens or weakens the seed planted. It is also important to protect the inner field from negative influences. Avoid useless arguments, toxic environments, conversations of lack and complaint. Just as a good farmer protects his crop from pests and drought, so must you guard your subconscious from anything that might contradict the new image you are installing. Each time you detect interference, return to the chosen affirmation. Reinforce your intention and keep the soil fertile and available for good. The tireless worker. Remember that the subconscious does not forget, does not rest, and does not interrupt its labor. Day and night, while you sleep and while you work, it continues processing the seeds received and preparing the future manifestation. If you choose to sow trust, gratitude, abundance, and acceptance of good, it cannot help but produce, in perfect time, a harvest corresponding to what has been planted. If by oversight you allow fear, resentment, or doubt to take root, acknowledge the error and correct it without guilt. Every new thought is an opportunity to renew the inner field. Therefore, remain always in the attitude of the conscious sower. Do not grow weary of planting truth, of affirming good, of calmly and faithfully declaring, "I am the perfect channel of divine abundance. All that I need flows to me in perfect order." Make this affirmation the guiding thread of your days, the refuge of your nights, the response to every doubt or challenge. Allow the silent worker of the subconscious to labor for you, and in time you will see that the harvest is abundant, secure, and faithful to principle. Thus the law ordains. Chapter 6. God is the source, not people or means. One of the most persistent and subtle illusions that obstruct conscious access to true prosperity is the almost universal tendency to place faith in channels rather than in the source. The human mind, conditioned by appearances and habit, tends to confuse the visible vehicles of good with the origin itself of all provision. Thus, employment is perceived as the source of sustenance, clients as the cause of abundance, governments as guarantors of security, and family as the refuge or support network. This identification with external channels is in fact one of the deepest roots of anxiety, fear, and instability, because any channel can change, be interrupted, or disappear, and with it, the individual's sense of security may falter. Spiritual principle teaches with unbreakable logic that no external channel is the true source of good. All people, situations, jobs, institutions, or conditions are merely temporary instruments through which the principle expresses itself. The source is and will always be God, absolute good, the one principle. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, nor stand in the way of sinners, nor sit in the seat of scoffers. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law he meditates day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever he does prospers. Psalm 113. True prosperity does not depend on the channel, but on uninterrupted connection with the source. The tree flourishes and bears fruit because it is planted beside the living stream, not because it relies on occasional rain or the benevolence of the seasons. Transferring faith to the source. The transfer of faith from human channels to the divine source is a deliberate process that begins with honest recognition of how and where trust has been placed. Observe your attitude toward your job. Is it a temporary blessing, a channel opened by the principle, or have you turned it into a silent idol upon which your well-being depends? Examine your relationship with clients, contracts, bosses, markets, and economic conditions. Do you rest in the serene conviction that nothing external can deprive you of sustenance, or do you live under constant worry about losing your income source? Excessive dependence on visible channels is a symptom of disconnection from the source. The first step toward inner freedom is to recognize it without guilt or judgment. I lift up my eyes to the hills. From where does my help come? My help comes from the Lord who made heaven and earth. Psalm 121:1-2. This is not a call to disdain human channels or renounce diligent action in the world. It is about establishing a clear hierarchy. Channels may change, but the source remains. Forms may transform, but the principle never varies nor shifts. Authentic faith resides in the recognition that God, absolute good, can employ infinite means to express provision, and you are not limited to any particular person, situation, business, government, or circumstance. Practical exercise. A practical exercise to transfer faith to the source consists of a daily discipline of meditation and affirmation. Each morning, before beginning your activities, take a few minutes to sit in silence, close your eyes and affirm with conviction, God is my only source. Every visible channel is merely an instrument through which good expresses itself, but my provision comes from infinite intelligence. I do not depend on people, jobs, or institutions. My trust is in the principle which never fails and never runs out. Remain in this state of recognition, breathing deeply, allowing the idea to penetrate and displace any fear or attachment to human channels. If during the day worry arises from a news item, a rumor, an economic change, or a loss of clients or income, pause and repeat the affirmation. God is my source. This channel may change, but the source remains. Faith transfer is also practiced in daily actions. Each time you receive a payment, an opportunity, help, a creative idea, or an unexpected blessing, mentally acknowledge that although it arrived through a visible channel, its origin is spiritual. Say within, "Thank you, Father, because your good manifests through this channel, but you are my provision." This habit of gratitude and recognition prevents the idolatry of channels and reinforces direct connection with the principle. Even when a channel closes, your peace and security remain intact because you know the flow of good is unbroken and other channels will open, perhaps by unexpected means, but always on time and in perfect measure. It is essential to understand that God as the source does not depend on the economy, politics, opinions of others, or the goodwill of third parties. The principle operates by law, not by whim. Prosperity is not an arbitrary favor nor a selective reward. It is the natural manifestation of conscious connection with the source. He shall be like a tree planted by streams of water. No external crisis can dry the inner stream. No recession, dismissal, or human failure can interrupt the flow of divine life when faith is firmly anchored in God, not in channels. This certainty is the foundation of all true independence, freedom, and authentic prosperity. To reinforce this truth, cultivate the habit of daily meditation on Psalms 1 and 121. Read and reread these passages, allowing their meaning to penetrate beyond the intellect and become a living conviction. Repeat often, "My help comes from the Lord." Make this affirmation the automatic response to any temptation of fear, dependence, or insecurity. In time, you will see that as you remove your gaze from human channels and lift it to the source, life reorganizes, paths open, and opportunities appear in ways you could not have anticipated from the limited perspective of the external world. Do not fear channel changes. Give thanks for every opportunity, job, client, or circumstance. But do not cling to them as if they were indispensable. Recognize them as temporary vehicles of good, and keep your gaze fixed on the source, which is inexhaustible, infinite, and eternally faithful. In this way, your prosperity will be stable, expansive, and free from the fear and anxiety that characterize dependence on the world. This is the law. Do not place your faith in human channels, your job, clients, or governments. God is the only source. Affirm this, live this, and all else will be added according to the promise. Chapter 7. The Consecrated Imagination. In the vast workshop of the human mind, no tool is as powerful or as often misunderstood as imagination. Frequently relegated to the realms of fantasy, entertainment, or idle dreams, imagination is in truth a divine faculty granted to humanity as part of its spiritual inheritance. Through imagination, humans actively participate in the work of creation. Everything that has ever appeared in the visible world, every advancement, every structure, every work of art, every concrete achievement, first existed as a vivid image sustained in someone's imagination. Imagination is the matrix where all possibility is conceived, the bridge between the invisible world of the mind and the universe of forms. The spiritual challenge is not merely to imagine, but to consecrate the imagination to good, aligning it with the eternal attributes of God, order, beauty, and abundance. The difference between a scattered imagination and a consecrated imagination is the difference between chaos and order, between fortuitous manifestation and deliberate creation. A scattered imagination leaps from one desire to another, fluctuates with emotions, and is contaminated by fears, resentments, and doubts. Such a mind, though creative, produces contradictory, confusing, and often unsatisfying results. In contrast, consecrated imagination is directed, purified, and intentionally focused on visualizing that which corresponds to truth, beauty, and good. This imagination is powerful because it is supported by faith, disciplined by will, and always oriented toward the highest expression of divine nature. Genesis offers the highest pattern and the perfect model of consecrated imagination. It is written that God, upon contemplating each act of creation, saw that it was good. Genesis 1:10. This is not merely an aesthetic observation, but a recognition that every true creation arises from conscious contemplation of the good. When humans use imagination to visualize order, beauty, and abundance, they are imitating the divine model and opening the doors for these qualities to manifest in their lives and environment. Imagine good, behold good, expect good, and the universe will respond by bringing into your experience what you have sustained with faith and clarity. Creative visualization is the art of deliberately using imagination to construct mental images aligned with principle. It is not a magical trick or superstitious technique, but the conscious application of a universal law. What is sustained in imagination, accompanied by feeling and faith, tends to manifest. The first step is to define with absolute precision what you wish to experience, ensuring that your desire aligns with God's attributes. Ask yourself, does this I imagine reflect order, beauty, and abundance? Does it uplift, bless, and expand not only my life but the greater good? If the answer is affirmative, you may proceed with the certainty that your imagination is consecrated and in harmony with the creative flow of the universe. The exercise of creative visualization begins by quieting the mind, relaxing the body, and directing attention inward. Close your eyes and allow a clear, detailed, and luminous image of the state you wish to experience to form on the screen of your imagination. If seeking prosperity, visualize yourself in situations where abundance is natural, where needs are met, and where you can give and receive with joy and gratitude. If seeking order, picture every aspect of your life organized, fluid, and harmonious. If seeking beauty, behold your surroundings, relationships, and projects imbued with light, elegance, and perfection. Remain in this image for several minutes, allowing the corresponding feeling to permeate your being. Do not rush or demand immediate results. The key is repetition, serenity, and faith in the process. Consecrated imagination also requires constant vigilance over the mental content admitted into the inner sanctuary. Just as a gardener removes weeds that threaten cultivated soil, you must learn to reject images of chaos, fear, disorder, or lack whenever they appear in your mind. Do not fight them. Simply replace them repeatedly with the clear vision of the good you wish to manifest. Discipline of the mind is inseparable from success in manifestation. What is sustained in imagination will sooner or later find the appropriate conditions to appear in the outer world. The risk of unconsecrated imagination is the inadvertent creation of that which you do not desire. Many people unknowingly use imagination to visualize disasters, failures, conflicts, and losses. The result is inevitable. The feared becomes real, not because the universe is hostile, but because the law is impartial and responds to the images sustained, whether of good or ill. To consecrate imagination is to assume responsibility for directing it deliberately toward the highest, feeding only constructive images, and systematically rejecting any vision that contradicts the nature of the principle. Remember always that consecrated imagination is inseparable from faith. It is not enough to see the image. It must be felt as real, present, and possible here and now. Faith gives life to the mental image and makes it attractive to good. If doubts, fears, or feelings of unworthiness arise during visualization, return to the practice, strengthen your conviction, and remember that as a child of God, you have the right to manifest order, beauty, and abundance in every area of life. Make creative visualization a daily habit, morning and night. Dedicate a few minutes to behold the good in your mind, feel the reality of what you desire, and express anticipatory gratitude for its manifestation. Repeat mentally, "My imagination is consecrated to good. All that I visualize in order, beauty, and abundance manifests in my life according to divine principle." Allow this conviction to settle in your subconscious, guiding your actions, words, and daily decisions. The key lies in perseverance and purity of intention. Consecrated imagination, aligned with good, becomes a powerful magnet that attracts only what is in harmony with divine nature. Thus, your life becomes a reflection of the eternal model, and God saw that it was good. Every mental image you sustain from today onward carries the mark of goodness, harmony, and fullness. You will witness the universe responding, manifesting with precision all that you have contemplated in the sacred sanctuary of your imagination. Chapter 8. Personality does not attract the inner Christ. Yes, there exists a common and deeply ingrained belief in collective consciousness, the idea that personal magnetism, charm, beauty, intelligence, technical skill, or sustained effort are the determining factors in attracting prosperity, love, success, and fulfillment. Time and again, the world reinforces this conviction. Charismatic achievers are admired. The fortune of the popular is envied. It is assumed that external brilliance is the key to accessing good. However, the spiritual law operates on a much deeper and subtler level, and its fruits, though they may manifest through people, qualities, and circumstances, do not originate on the surface of personality, but in the essential center of human nature, the inner Christ. Personality is the collection of traits, habits, customs, talents, temperament, and accumulated experiences that distinguish one individual from another in the visible plane. It is a useful instrument for navigating the world, but it is neither the source nor the engine of authentic prosperity. No matter how brilliant or diligent a personality may be, its results are limited, transient, and subject to the laws of wear, competition, and change. The mistake is to confuse the channel with the source, the instrument with the principle, the effect with the cause. Hence, many people, despite their talents, efforts, and dedication, find that results do not correspond to the work invested, or that abundance obtained through external means dissolves at the slightest crisis, the passage of time, or a change in circumstances. Jesus' teaching is clear and categorical on this point. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Here a law of precedence and spiritual causality is established. The kingdom of God is not a physical place, nor a state to be reached in some distant future. It is the inner consciousness of unity with the principle, the active manifestation of the inner Christ, the divine presence in the heart and mind of each person. When this presence is recognized, affirmed, and allowed to express itself without obstruction, all that is necessary, prosperity, health, relationships, opportunities, flows into experience naturally, harmoniously, and sustainably. It is not charm, personal attractiveness, or physical effort that produces true attraction, but the elevated, silent vibration of the inner Christ working through the individual. Seeking good through personality inevitably leads to frustration. Personality may seduce, impress, or convince for a time, but it can never substitute for the real power of presence. Just as a lamp, however bright, cannot illuminate without electricity, no personality can sustain prosperity without conscious contact with the principle. Authentic prosperity is a state of consciousness, not the result of a set of skills or favorable circumstances. This understanding liberates from competition, wear, and anxiety. It allows one to relax in the certainty that all that is needed will come, not by personal merit, but by the law of spiritual correspondence. The practice to affirm the divine presence within begins with the daily, sincere recognition that the source of your good is not external, nor does it depend on charm, appearance, credentials, or social influence. The source is within, expressed as the inner Christ, always present and available. Each day, before beginning activities, dedicate a few minutes to sit in silence and mentally affirm, I am the conscious channel of the divine presence. I do not seek to attract through external means, nor depend on the approval of others. Good flows to me because I recognize, accept, and express the kingdom of God within me. All that I need is given unto me according to the law. Throughout the day, whenever the temptation arises to overexert, worry about image, compete, or please at the expense of peace, remember, it is not my personality but the inner Christ who attracts all good. This affirmation redirects attention from the superficial plane to the essential center, allowing mental and emotional energy to flow unobstructed toward the expression of true prosperity. If insecurity, doubt, or a sense of inadequacy arises, return to the practice and reaffirm your spiritual identity. You are not a beggar trying to impress the universe. You are a legitimate heir of good, and your only work is to allow the inner Christ to express freely. The lives of great spiritual masters and truly prosperous men and women are marked by this silent certainty. They do not seek personal recognition, depend on fame, social approval, or manipulate external circumstances. They have learned to dwell in the kingdom, to establish themselves in the peace of the inner Christ, and to trust in provision from above. The result is a rich, harmonious, and sustained life, immune to environmental fluctuations and free from fear of loss or failure. Personality, by its changing and limited nature, is useful as a channel, but dangerous as a center of identity. If you build self-esteem and sense of prosperity on personal achievements, external attractiveness, or the recognition of others, you will live in constant insecurity, fearing the loss of that which has no root in the principle. If, however, you build your life upon the rock of presence, nothing and no one can take away the good that belongs to you. The difference is absolute, and the outcome inevitable. Make the affirmation of the divine presence your permanent habit. Every thought of scarcity, unworthiness, competition, or fear is a signal to return to the center and remember, the inner Christ is my magnet. I am the channel of true prosperity. I seek first the kingdom, and all else is added unto me according to the law. Allow this certainty to permeate your consciousness, guide your words, and determine your actions. In this way, your life becomes a living testimony that personality does not attract, but the inner Christ does. This is the secret of true prosperity, the open door to fullness, and the guarantee that, no matter what occurs in the world, nothing you truly need will ever be lacking. Chapter 9. Gratitude as a magnetic field. Among all possible mental attitudes, none is as powerful or effective in attracting good as authentic gratitude. Gratitude is far more than a fleeting feeling or a mere act of social courtesy. In the spiritual order, it is a creative force, a high vibration that establishes direct affinity with universal abundance and accelerates the manifestation of everything the soul recognizes and celebrates as its own. Where there is sincere and conscious gratitude, divine attraction inevitably follows, because gratitude establishes the proper mental and emotional mold for good to flow, multiply, and remain. The law is simple, yet inexorable. What you appreciate, you perpetuate and multiply. What you take for granted, underestimate, or overlook, weakens and eventually disappears. The universe responds to gratitude as fertile soil responds to the seed. Recognized blessings grow, appreciated gifts increase, and celebrated prosperity expands into new and greater forms. Enter his gates with thanksgiving and his courts with praise. Give thanks to him. Bless his name, for the Lord is good. His mercy endures forever. Psalm 104:5. This is not a moral suggestion, but an exact description of how the spiritual law operates. Thanksgiving is the key that opens the doors to good. Gratitude is also the mental attitude that most accelerates manifestation. Many people unknowingly delay or even block the arrival of their desires by remaining in a vibration of lack, complaint, or dissatisfaction. They ask, plead, decree, but do so from a sense of emptiness, of not having, waiting for something to happen before they express gratitude. This is a fundamental error. Authentic gratitude does not wait for visible results. It gives thanks in advance, from faith and certainty that good is already present in the invisible plane and that its manifestation in the visible world is a matter of law, timing, and acceptance. When gratitude is sustained before seeing results, the mind aligns with abundance and eliminates internal obstacles that impede the flow of good. A simple yet immensely powerful practical exercise is the daily habit of counting blessings. Upon awakening, pause and mentally or in writing list at least 5 blessings present in your life. It does not matter how small or simple they seem. The ability to breathe, to have a place to sleep, to enjoy health, food, affection, learning, or an opportunity to serve. Each consciously recognized blessing is a seed of good that germinates and multiplies. If your day begins with gratitude, the vibration of your mind rises and transforms into a magnetic field that attracts more reasons to give thanks. Throughout the day, make gratitude a habitual state. Appreciate small things, kind gestures, lessons learned through challenges, opportunities, achievements, and even seemingly adverse situations that bring lessons and growth. Do not reserve gratitude only for great accomplishments or spectacular manifestations. Cultivate it in the everyday, the simple, the seemingly insignificant. Each time you express gratitude, you acknowledge the active presence of good in your life and strengthen the bridge between the invisible and visible planes. The Metaphysical Gratitude Journal is a practical and transformative tool. Each night, before sleeping, dedicate a few minutes to write 3 things you are grateful for that day. Strive to find something new each time, expanding your capacity to perceive good. Sustained practice over weeks and months reprograms the subconscious mind, installs a new pattern of recognition, and prepares the ground for the constant and growing manifestation of abundance in all its forms. Gratitude also has the power to dissolve complaint, resentment, comparison, and envy, forms of denying the present good and blocking the flow of prosperity. Where complaint prevails, abundance retreats. Where gratitude governs, good multiplies. It is impossible to be truly grateful while remaining in a state of lack or limitation. Appreciation redirects the mind toward what is possible, beautiful and elevated, establishing an atmosphere in which miracles become natural and frequent. In the metaphysical realm, gratitude is the highest form of prayer. It is not supplication or petition, but joyous acceptance, joyful recognition of good flowing from the source. Whenever you pray, accompany your words with a deep sense of gratitude, as if you have already received what you desire. Affirm mentally, "Thank you, Father, for your abundance is my inheritance. Thank you for at this moment I receive all that I need for my well-being. Thank you for your good manifests in my life in perfect and wonderful ways." Allow this feeling to penetrate your being and fill all of you. Over time, you will see that life reorganizes to offer ever clearer and more abundant reasons to give thanks. Serve the Lord with gladness. Come before his presence with singing. Psalm 100:2. This is not a mere emotional slogan, but a foolproof spiritual technique. Where the spirit rises through gratitude, the mind opens to receive, the heart expands, and life responds with visible and invisible blessings. Make gratitude your permanent magnetic field, not as a forced obligation, but as conscious recognition of the ceaseless flow of good in your existence. Remember each day, the more you give thanks, the more you receive. Let gratitude be the foundation of your thoughts, words, and actions. In doing so, you will attract by divine law that which corresponds to the highest vibration, and you will experience in your life the fullness and abundance reserved for those who know how to celebrate the good at all times and in all circumstances. Chapter 10. Breaking the Inertia of Lack. In the study of mental law, one of the most persistent and perplexing phenomena is the existence of an inverted magnetic field. This silent force seems to attract, with mathematical precision, experiences of lack, scarcity, or limitation, even in those who have begun to consciously understand and apply the principles of prosperity. Many people, after years of effort, affirmations, and spiritual practice, find themselves repeating financial hardships, frustrating relationships, or an internal sense of unworthiness. This is not the result of a curse, punishment, or fate, but of the unconscious maintenance of deeply rooted mental patterns that perpetuate the same outcome. Understanding the existence and functioning of this inertia is the first step to deactivate it and open oneself to abundance. The inertia of lack is nothing more than a mental habit formed over years of thoughts, beliefs, and feelings of insufficiency, unworthiness, or fear regarding money and well-being. Just as a magnet's field determines what it attracts and repels, your conscious and subconscious mental field determines with precision what you experience in the outer world. If deep inside you harbor resentment toward money, fears about the future, guilt for desiring prosperity, or identification with sacrifice and poverty, your overall vibration will tend to attract more of the same no matter what efforts you make on the surface. The law is exact and does not distinguish between conscious thoughts and those that are sustained by habit, inheritance, or past experiences. The first task is to become aware of your fear of money and belief in lack. Many think they desire prosperity, yet they fear money because they associate it with conflict, corruption, loss of values, or social rejection. Others have internalized messages from childhood such as, "Money corrupts, earning a living is difficult, one must sacrifice to have just enough, there is not enough for everyone." These repeated thoughts over the years form an inverted magnetic field that invisibly blocks the flow of good, even in the presence of opportunities. It is essential to examine with absolute honesty your true feelings about money, prosperity, and your right to receive. Do not judge yourself for what you discover. Simply acknowledge the contents of your inner field, for only then can you transform it. To dissolve fear of money and identification with lack, it is necessary to apply specific and persistent mental formulas that replace old patterns. A powerful affirmation is, "Money is a manifestation of divine good. I accept prosperity as my natural right. Everything I need comes to me easily, in perfect order, and without harming anyone." This formula should be repeated several times a day, especially when thoughts of worry, guilt, or doubt arise. Repetition is essential because, like physical inertia, mental inertia can only be reversed through sustained and consistent effort in the opposite direction. Occasional practice, or responding only when difficulty arises, is insufficient. Make it part of your daily routine with patience and determination until the new belief is firmly installed in the subconscious. The power of affirmative prayer lies not only in deactivating the negative magnetic field, but also in constructing a new one aligned with abundance. An effective prayer could be, "I recognize and accept the abundance of God flowing through me. Now every channel of lack is dissolved. My mind and heart are open to receive fully. Prosperity is my natural state, and I manifest it in all areas of my life." Recite this prayer each morning and evening, and whenever you face scarcity or the temptation to worry. Do not expect immediate enthusiasm. The mind often responds with skepticism at first. However, consistency in affirmation will ultimately neutralize the old vibration and establish a new center of attraction for good. The law of forgiveness is indispensable in breaking the inertia of lack. Often, limitation is perpetuated because resentment exists deep within toward those who have more, toward institutions, family members, employers, or even oneself for past mistakes or poor financial decisions. Each resentment is an invisible burden that keeps the magnetic field oriented towards scarcity, continually affirming separation, injustice, or unworthiness. Forgiveness is the act of releasing these ties, letting go of the past, and recognizing that good is universal, and nothing can prevent you from accessing your inheritance if you choose it. A fundamental practice is the following. Think of all the people or situations related to money that cause discomfort or resentment. Affirm, "I forgive and release all who, in my perception, have impeded or limited my prosperity. I forgive myself for any thought of lack. Now I choose good, abundance, and financial freedom." The inertia of lack often also manifests in small daily habits, postponing decisions, fearing to invest in oneself, saving compulsively out of fear, rejecting gifts, doubting one's abilities to create value, or feeling it is not the right time to receive good. Each of these attitudes reinforces the negative magnetic field and must be consciously replaced with actions and thoughts that affirm abundance. Dare to receive, to celebrate your achievements, to recognize good in yourself and others. Prosperity manifests not only in large sums, but also in the ability to enjoy, share, and live without fear of the future. Always remember, the mental law responds to predominant vibration. It is not about denying visible reality, but transforming the inner cause so that outer experience changes accordingly. When you succeed in dissolving fear of money, forgiving all grievances, affirming abundance, and acting as if you are already prosperous, the inverted magnetic field will deactivate. The process requires honesty, patience, and perseverance, but the law faithfully responds to those who assume their power and responsibility. Make these formulas and prayers your daily tools. Observe how day by day your relationship with money, well-being, and yourself begins to transform. You will discover that life, far from being a field of struggle or lack, is a space of infinite possibilities, where good is always ready to manifest as long as you are willing to receive and accept it. This is how the inertia of lack is finally broken, and the magnetic field of your life is oriented once and for all toward the natural abundance that is your divine inheritance. Chapter 11. The Scientific Treatment for Prosperity. The spiritual treatment for prosperity, far from being a mysterious or ambiguous act reserved for a few initiates, is a precise, logical, and reproducible procedure grounded in the immutable principles of mental law and in the direct relationship of the human being with the divine principle. Prosperity, in its broadest sense, is the natural manifestation of conscious connection with the source of all good. Therefore, any authentic method must begin and end with the affirmation of this relationship and the radical transformation of the inner state. The scientific treatment for prosperity is not an empty routine or a mechanical repetition of phrases. It is a deliberate process involving understanding, conviction, feeling, and persistence. Step 1. Clarify your objective. The first step is to establish clearly what you truly wish to manifest. Avoid vague formulas such as "I want more money" or "I want to be prosperous." Define precisely the experience, state, or result you seek. The desire must be legitimate, constructive, and in harmony with the principles of good. There are no limits to what you can ask, provided it does not contradict order, harmony, or the well-being of yourself and others. Remember, the true treatment does not aim to manipulate people or situations. It seeks to transform the inner pattern so the universe can respond accurately to the new blueprint. Step 2. Mental preparation. Calm the mind, withdraw attention from the problem, and direct it firmly and serenely toward the principle. This is the essence of the golden key, one of the most effective techniques ever revealed to resolve any difficulty. The practice consists simply in ceasing to focus on the problem and occupying the mind constantly and disciplinedly on God, the absolute good. Do not fight negative thoughts or forcefully suppress worry. Simply shift attention to the highest, to the recognition of God's infinite presence, power, and abundance. As you begin the treatment, you can say, "I acknowledge here and now that God is my inexhaustible source of prosperity. Abundance flows to me in unexpected ways, with ease and perfect order. Everything I need is provided continuously, safely, and sufficiently. I'm not limited by people, circumstances, or conditions. My good comes from the principle, and nothing can prevent its manifestation." Remain in this state, repeating and contemplating the truth of these statements until the mind is calm and negative emotion loses its power. Step 3. Sustained affirmation. Here, specific formulas and decrees are used to install the new prosperity blueprint into the subconscious. Examples of affirmations you can use include, "I am the perfect channel for divine abundance. Everything I need comes to me in perfect order and effortlessly. Spiritual and material wealth flow to me because my consciousness is aligned with the principle. Each day I am guided to new opportunities for prosperity and growth. My mind and heart are open to receive good. Prosperity is my natural state. I accept, appreciate, and enjoy all that life offers me." These affirmations should be repeated not mechanically, but with feeling, faith, and visualization. Imagine, as you speak them, that you are already enjoying the prosperity you desire. Allow joy, gratitude, and certainty to permeate each word. If doubts, fears, or resistance arise, do not fight them. Gently return to the affirmation and reinforce the mental blueprint. Constancy and depth of feeling are key. Step 4. Anticipatory gratitude. Before seeing results, sincerely give thanks for the good received. Gratitude establishes the bridge between the invisible and visible manifestation and prepares the mind to accept and enjoy the outcome. Say, "Thank you, Father, for my prosperity is secure. Thank you because it is already on its way. Thank you because nothing can separate me from my divine inheritance." This act of gratitude expresses faith and confirms that on the spiritual plane, the result is already a completed fact. Step 5. Detachment from the outcome. Perhaps the most important step is letting go of attachment to the result. Do not cling to how, when, or through which means prosperity will manifest. Do not attempt to control forms or impose conditions on the law. Perform your inner work diligently. Then release expectations and rest in absolute trust that the principle acts in your favor. If during the day worry returns, or your mind falls into old habits of fear or doubt, repeat the treatment, return to the affirmation, and restore inner peace. The golden key is above all an attitude, thinking of God instead of thinking of the problem. Whenever fear arises, when counting difficulties, lamenting scarcity, or discussing lack, immediately shift focus and contemplate the abundance of the principle. Repeat as often as necessary, with patience and confidence. Over time, you will see that the mind retrains, the vibrational field rises, and circumstances reorganize in favor of prosperity. Action and inspiration. Do not forget, the scientific treatment for prosperity does not replace inspired action. As consciousness changes, ideas, opportunities, people, and doors that were once closed appear. Listen to inner guidance, follow indications the principle provides, and act decisively when necessary. Faith is not inaction. It is certainty that action arises from the correct level and at the right time. Integrate this method into daily life. Dedicate a few minutes each morning and night to your spiritual treatment. Apply it whenever difficulties or the temptation to give in to fear arise. The result will be a profound and stable transformation, not only in financial matters but in all areas of your experience. You will discover with amazement and gratitude that abundance is not a privilege of a few nor a product of chance, but the natural consequence of consciousness aligned with the principle. Let your treatment be constant, joyful and serene. Let your faith depend not on appearances, but on the unalterable knowledge that prosperity is your birthright, your eternal inheritance, and the highest expression of divine love in action. Thus, the golden key will open for you the doors to spiritual and material wealth, and everything you need will be given to you according to the law. Chapter 12. You are the invisible magnet. As we reach the conclusion of this path of revelation and practice, it is necessary to pause on the fundamental truth that gives meaning and power to all the teachings presented. Throughout these pages, you are the invisible magnet, the true center of attraction, the primary cause of all manifestations of good in your life. No event, circumstance, person, or external channel possesses in itself the power to grant or deny you prosperity. The magnetic force that attracts good, or perpetuates lack, always resides in your own state of consciousness, in the quality of your thoughts and feelings, in the alignment of your mind and heart with the divine principle. Prosperity, far from being the result of struggle, desperate effort, or external pursuit, is the direct consequence of allowing and expressing the Christ within in every aspect of your existence. The more you recognize and affirm your unity with the principle, the more the universe responds to your inner vibration. Good is not conquered, it is allowed. Good does not come from outside in, it emanates from the deepest part of your being and projects outward into experience in concrete, unexpected and perfect forms. You are the point of origin, the channel, the creative center which, when opened to the flow of spirit, becomes that invisible magnet whose attraction is silent, infallible, and constant. Authentic manifestation of prosperity arises when you stop struggling, begging, or chasing. Every forced effort, every attempt to control conditions, every anxiety over results only interrupts the natural flow of good and diminishes your magnetic power. The supreme key is allowing the principle to express itself, allowing good to circulate, allowing abundance to take the forms necessary without interference. This is true faith, resting in the certainty that the Christ within, the divine presence in you, is the inexhaustible source of all provision, joy, power, and possibility. This recognition transforms your relationship with life. You cease to live from lack, fear, doubt, or comparison, and step into the role of heir and co-creator. You finally understand that every prayer, affirmation, visualization, treatment, or external action has value only insofar as it arises from consciousness of unity with the principle and seeks alignment not with personal whims, but with the highest good for all. Thus, without effort, you become the invisible magnet that attracts opportunities, people, resources, ideas, and blessings, not by the force of personality, but by the silent power of spirit working through you. Inner silence is the state in which this magnetism finds its fullest expression. In silence, the mind stops seeking answers outside, stops justifying, claiming, or resisting, and simply opens, accepts, and receives. Make silence a daily practice. Reserve moments each day to retreat into stillness, listen to the inner voice, and renew your connection with the Christ within. In that space of peace, your magnetic field is realigned, the residues of worry, criticism, and fear are cleared, and the purity of your channel is restored. From silence, everything becomes clear, and good flows with renewed force. To seal this learning and consecrate your life to the flow of abundance, consider this final prayer of surrender and recognition. And Father, I acknowledge that you are the source of all good, the immutable principle of abundance, wisdom, and love. I renounce struggle, anxious searching, and dependence on external channels. I fully surrender to the guidance of the Christ within, allowing your good to express through me without obstacles. I know that prosperity is my inheritance, my divine right, my natural state. I consecrate my mind, heart, will, and deeds to be a clean and generous channel of your abundance. I receive with gratitude all that is necessary and share with joy all that I receive. I allow good to flow in me and through me now and always. Amen. With this invocation of abundance, set the tone of your daily experience. Do not wait for the outer world to change to feel complete, sufficient, and prosperous. Affirm from the depths of your being, I am the invisible magnet of good. I allow abundance to manifest in my life in all its forms. I live in harmony with the Christ within. All I need comes to me in perfect order because it is already within me. Always remember, the secret is not in pursuing, but in allowing, not in struggle, but in acceptance, not in external effort, but in internal alignment. Prosperity flows to you, through you, and multiplies by you when you choose to live in communion with the principle, in peace with the present, and in constant gratitude. You are the invisible magnet. This is your truth, your power, and your blessing. Remain in silence, in faith, in love, and the entire universe will respond. So it is, and so it shall be.